another special edition of WingNut and RockHead show. So this week we have Memorial Day. It's Memorial Day weekend.
Yeah.
So we have a few things we want to talk about, and then we have Dale Snodgrass. Snort is going to be taking up most of the time here. So we had a chance to sit down with him via Zoom and discuss some interesting topics. I'm sure a lot of you people may have heard of some of the myths and or rumors around him, and so we're going to dispel some of that stuff and get a little bit intimate into some of the questions and have some fun with him. So
great interview.
Yeah, it was fun. Just a little inside. Dale and I go back a little bit. I was introduced to him from some other friends of a flight team that I'm involved in, and we'll talk about that on another episode. But he flew with our team for a while. He was lead pilot and coordinator on aerobatics and stuff like that. So we had a chance to, again, talk to him a little bit about some of his antics in Desert Storm, I believe he was in. And as I said, well, here's the interview anyway. I mean, what am I rambling on? So anyway.
You do it so well, though.
I know. I mean, that's a bad habit. But so here's Snort. Welcome to another installment of our interviews with the infamous Dale Snodgrass. He's Navy retired, and we want to talk to him a little bit about his career with the Navy and what he's done afterward and what he plans to do now that he's retired. Anyway, welcome to the show, Dale. This is quite interesting. Haven't seen you in some time, working with you in the past with our charity Warrior Flight Team. I know you've flown in the past in the L-39 or L-39s in our team, as well as a P-51 and others. But I want to start and tell our viewers the beginnings of who you are. How did you get into the Navy? Where did it all begin with you with flight and say, I want to get into the Navy, I want to fly fighters?
It was a nepotistic event. My father was a Marine aviator in World War II, flew C-46s and Corsairs in the South Pacific, then became an engineering test pilot, and then eventually wound up working for Grumman Aviation in Long Island. And when he was there, obviously I was embedded in the aviation world with him. And then when it really sunk home was when he was at Grumman, and they were working on the F-14, and a bunch of the test pilots, which my father was one of them, would come to our house and have a cocktail or two, like good fighter pilots and test pilots. And anyway, so I got embedded in their spirit and also into the environment, I guess I would say. And then it became, from then on, the passion was lit, and then it was off to the races. I went to University of Minnesota on a Naval ROTC and swimming scholarship. When I graduated, I got commissioned and went off to flight school, directly to flight school. Spent a year and a half or so, not quite, about a year and a half in flight school at basically in Kingsville, Texas, for the majority of it. Did very well. Was lucky enough to be the numero uno guy out of 90 plus students. And I got basically got F-14 was brand new, and I got one of the very first seats out of the training command F-14s, and then the rest is sort of history from that point on.
What was the first squadron you were assigned to? I know you were most famous with VF-33, the Starfighters, but where did you where did you get assigned to, if that's how the progress started?
Well, I was very lucky. Basically went from stayed completely operational through my command tour, which was VF-33. So my first training F-14 training squadron was VF-124 in Miramar. That was just a training squadron. Then my first operational squadron was VF-142, the Ghost Riders, and we transitioned. That was an F-4 squadron that transitioned F-14s when I was going through training, and the squadron moved from Miramar out to Naval Air Station Oceana in Virginia Beach. Then from there, I went back to VF-101, which was the F-14 training squadron in Oceana as an instructor. Then I went to Carrier Wing 8 as the senior landing signal officer, LSO, and flew with VF-41, the Black Aces. Of note during that time frame, that's when we had the first shoot down of the Libyans occurred in the Gulf of Sidra, and I was in the squadron and airborne at the time. Then I went back. Then I went to VF-43, which was the adversary aggressor squadron in Oceania, and flew A4s and F5s as a adversary pilot. Then I did a department head tour in the world famous Pukin Dogs VF-143 as the operations and maintenance officer there. Then back to VF-101 as executive officer, and then to my command tour in VF-33, and eventually finished my flying career in F-14s as the commander of Fighter Wing U.S. Atlantic Fleet with a Commodore, where I had all of the Navy's F-14s under my command.
Well, that's quite impressive there. There's a lot of Navy squadrons, and it sounds like you were in at least half of them.
Well,
okay. There is, I want to talk to you about the Fleur-Cat. You also flew that, correct? That had nose art on it, but I remember we had a discussion at some point, and I wasn't quite clear if you actually flew that particular aircraft. Do you recall that?
yes, I did. When we added the lantern, well, first of all, after Desert Storm, the Navy had, infinite wisdom, was buying F-18s, and then also getting rid of the A6s. So at that point, we didn't have a real precision strike platform. The Nighthawk pod, which was the FLIR laser pod that was on the F-18 at the time, was pretty inadequate. It had very limited range and limited field of view. So what we did is, as I had just taken over command of Fighter Wing in Oceana, and I got a meeting with some people from Whitley, Bradley and Brown, which is a consulting company, along with then Martin Marietta, soon to be Lockheed Martin. And we discussed the possibility of putting a lantern pod, which then had been developed for the F-15E Strike Eagle and was also going on the F-16s in the Air Force. And we discussed the option of doing that, and we thought we had a path. So we developed a joint team between some wizards in my wing, former operational and flight test pilots and an engineer, about 3 guys, and the Lockheed Martin sent down 3 guys. So we got 6 guys, super smart, knew what they're doing, and unleashed them. This was all outside of the normal acquisition process. At the time, the commander of the U.S. Atlantic Fleet, or Air Forces Atlantic, was a 3-star admiral, and he was an A6 guy, and he totally applauded this potential maneuver. So we got around some of the finesse stuff with the legal acquisition stuff by doing what's called the fleet prototype rule, which was allowed. So literally within 6 months, after the first handshake, and these 6 guys working, not having to go thousands of meetings, not having to go up through all the normal bureaucracy that occurs within NATO and any sort of military Department of Defense acquisition system. So streamlined process was the key part of this. We developed the lantern pod and integrated it into the F-14, extremely successfully, by the way, to the point that it dazzled it went way beyond even our original thoughts. So in 6 months, we flew the airplane with the pod very successfully, and then yes, I flew it, and I dropped the first live JDAM off the airplane in Vieques, which was a bombing target down off Puerto Rico at the time, now given back to the Puerto Ricans. But the end game is I did fly the airplane, and I dropped the first GBU-16 1,000-pound laser-guided weapon off the F-14 for a direct hit on a tank on the beach from about 14 miles away. So hugely successful. The interesting story about that is the Navy, of course, this was a brand new fleet prototype event. So the Admiral, Admiral Sweet P. Allen, told me, he goes, Snort, I want you to go on a road trip and take this story to all of the Navy SINCs, which are the 4-stars, the commanders in chiefs across the globe. So I did that, and along with Lockheed Martin, we'd made a really good movie of all the displays and exactly how we did it and whatever. So they had visual proof. So the brief was like no more than 20 minutes, of which 10 minutes was a really good movie. And so I went to all of the 4-star Navy admirals and said, you can have this. And they said, that's awesome capability. Amazing. How soon could we have it? And I said, you can have it in 6 months. And then, of course, they asked the big question, how are we going to pay for it? Because the price tag was approaching $1 billion. And I said, well, here's the scenario. We have already got a budget approval to add AMRAAM, which is an air-to-air missile, to the Navy F-14 for about the same amount of money. I said, I'm a fighter pilot. I've been trying to shoot down MiGs my whole life. We still have a very good missile system in the Phoenix. We have lots of inventory. We have lots of inventory of late model Sparrows. And I said, we can take the money from AMRAAM and we divert it, which the program hadn't really started yet, but the money had been approved. Take that money, divert it over to the Lantern, and you wind up with a significant war fighting capability that we don't have right now. And all the 4 stars went, yes. They called Washington, and they said, make it happen. And lo and behold, 6 months later, the weapon system, the Lantern pod, went on cruise, deployed with VF-103, which was the Jolly Rogers, and from then on, it became a success story.
That's great. Another success story I got to add here for those that, again, that don't know, you hold the record for the most hours in an F-14, flying an F-14, correct?
That is correct.
And that will never fall. Because there are no more F-14, obviously, going to be flying. So yeah, I'm surprised. Do you have a plaque? Did they give you some kind of award, or is it just on paper?
It's not on paper. It's just, it's like,
History.
Just history. Yeah, I know that it's there. And so, I smile about it now and then.
Well, we want to tell the rest of our listeners, our viewers, and the rest of the world who doesn't know that you certainly deserve that. You're a fine gentleman. I've spent many hours with you, not as many as your cruise mates and squadron mates or so, but from what we've been, from what I know of you, just rubbing elbows with you, hanging out, and working with you with the team, and bumping into you here and there. You certainly are the fighter pilot's pilot. All right, so let me get to.
We had one thing, a little postscript to the FLIRCAT, the business. So once I have to thank you for sending me, a scaled down version of the nose art that you put on the F-14, right? The FLIRCAT.
That's correct. Yeah.
I have that in my hangar here, and I also have the scaled down tail of my when I was CO of F-33, the tail here. This was all in the Draken International Bar in Lakeland for a number of years, but that's subsequently gone away. So I have those pieces of nose art and metal art that you gave me, and I'm taking it out to my hangar in New Mexico. We have a beautiful, cool 2-story apartment in there, and it's turning into a big aviation shrine, in which those pieces will be hung with great honor.
Well, thank you very much. It's great to know that, and I'm honored to know that you still have that. And
I'll send you pictures of it when it's.
That'd be great. Hey, if there's something else that I could do for you, I'd be more than happy to. I mean, it's what we do here. So just if you have an idea, if you want something, just let us know here, and we can turn it around and get it up for you. So, all right. Couple of things I also wanted to talk to you about that set the internet on fire on a couple of the pages on Facebook, Instagram. One of them is a famous series of photographs that you're well familiar with, that you were on on cruise, a FAM cruise on the USS America, where there's a knife edge pass that passed very closely. And there's people on board, mostly at least the one photograph of it looks to be, I guess, the commander of the boat with his arms behind his back. And I know this because you told me the story, and I've seen the photographs, and I've defended you many cases whenever I've seen this, that everyone said that pilot was reprimanded for doing so. He was not authorized to do this, and all this blah blah blah. And whenever I could, and now it's like beating a dead horse, because it still crops up. But can you please elaborate and tell us a story of how that came to be? I know at the time it was sort of classified and not supposed to be out there. But just, if you will, just give us a quick rundown on that day.
Well, we'll set the stage. That particular maneuver was not, I wasn't the first guy to do that. There was a guy named, another F-14, really well-known F-14 pilot named Ed Hunyak Andrews. And he was the guy that first did that. It was the opening maneuver to the shipboard-based flight demonstration, right? Tactical demonstration of the F-14. So I saw him do it. I said, "Wow, that was really cool." So I just thought about it for a long time. Then I became the full-time demo pilot, both a lot at normal air shows, but also at sea for the air wing. So when that happened, I decided, okay, I'm going to do the same start for the thing. So I basically thought about it a lot, and it basically was the whole maneuver and the whole event. That was just the beginning of my air show routine, air demonstration maneuvers package at the carrier. The difference between a carrier and flying at an air show is you don't have a 1,500-foot safety barrier. Basically, the side of the ship is the show line. So in an air show, you got a 1,500 feet to the show line for high performance jets, right? And quote unquote from an FAA safety mark. But in the carrier, the side of the ship is the show line. So anyway, I start from behind, and this was all pre-approved. It was in my package. And the man that you're talking about that had his arms behind his back was not the carrier CEO, but he was the air wing commander at the time, the senior air wing commander at the time. And his name was Jay Johnson, and he continued to prosper in the Navy. He actually retired as the chief of naval operation as the #1 admiral in the entire Navy. So anyway, that was the beginning of my air show. So it was approved, pre-approved, and I flew it exactly the way I briefed it. And it came off flawlessly. The picture was taken by a third-class petty officer who worked in the catapults of the ship off on the side over by the island. So there's a little bit of depth perception issues with the lens and everything. So I probably was not quite as close as the picture looks like, but I was still pretty damn close. But you got to remember that the carrier, because it's a angled deck, the carrier where the picture was taken is not going straight ahead, like straight, fore and aft, perfectly fore and aft. It's angling out away. So really, I'm angling away from the main part of the ship because you go past the angle, then it juts back in. So as soon as I get past that, I go wings level, and now I'm well clear of the ship at the bow. So it's not quite as scary as you might think based on just the way carriers are designed.
Well, very impressive nonetheless. And like I said, there's I know that wasn't really talked about when it happened at the time for at least a couple of decades. Then this photograph surfaced, and then it started that whole hoopla. Along with that,
but the funny thing about the picture, that photo came up. We came back into port, and then I went back out to the ship on Monday or Tuesday, whatever it was, and the ship was parked. It was at the pier in Norfolk, Virginia, and so anyway, I go back into our ready room, and my ops officer at the time, Dirk Aber, Gumbo, who one of my guys and favorite Rios, he says, "Hey, I was the XO at the time. I wasn't the skipper at the time. I was the XO of the squadron." He goes, "XO, take a look at this picture." I said, "Holy moly!" I said, I might have said something more than moly, but I went, "Go down to the photo lab, make 50 copies, and burn the negative," because I knew this picture would come back and haunt me if it prospered. So I said, make 50 copies. I went up, I took a signed copy. I gave one to the air wing commander. I gave one to the captain of the ship. So I was politically in good shape with that. And then eventually, yeah, it did pop up on the internet. And that's when all the stories came that I was, I'd been grounded and all of that. And it's not true. In fact, this photo actually today, believe it or not, I have, when I was at Drocken, I had interns that interned between graduating from ROTC and going into flight school at the Air Force. And when they finally get to the Air Force Flight School, they go in and they have a big safety brief. And in the safety brief is that photo. And the Air Force is saying, this is not what you want to do. So I find it very funny that in my interns, one of the first briefs they get is a picture of me going by the carrier saying, this is not what to do. And I said, well, that's what you're not do that if you're an Air Force guy, but if you're a Navy guy, then you could do it. So.
Yeah, well, that also went into the air show civilian, I guess, market as well. Because when you were flying air shows in P-51s, you also flew very low. You were one of the, if not the most, how do I say this? Daredevil pilot who would fly and cut the grass, or get as low to the ground as on the deck as possible. And not only did you do this on terra firma, you also did this over water, because I remember personally witnessing you when we did a show together over at Atlantic City. And you were, because the air show was over the water, and you were fairly low, and there were photographs of that day. Also, people saying, "Oh, that's all Photoshop. That would never happen. Who would risk a P-51?" And that's very not professional of the pilot. And once again, I would come to chime in to your defense and think, "No, that is real. That's not Photoshop." And I was there at the show, and I witnessed this because I knew everybody that was involved in that. And then another photograph where you're doing another knife edge pass over the field, which really is a no-no. But I mean, again, your wingtip is very, literally feet from the ground, and it's just impressive. And I've never seen anybody do that, come down on the deck as low as you have. So my hat's off to you. I mean, it's just, it's just a testament to your flying.
It does look a little, risky and daredevilish, et cetera, and stupid to some people. But in reality, it's something that I practiced and I was very, very good at. And when you're in an air show environment, you want to sort of do something that makes you stand out a little bit. So flying a Warbird, though it's a beautiful airplane, it doesn't have quite the aerobatic capabilities of some of the, some of the other airplanes, the more modern aerobatic airplanes. So, and I'm flying an airplane that doesn't have the wow factor of the F-14 like I was flying before, or an F-15 or an F-16 or an F-22. So I wanted to set something up that sort of set me up in the airshow world as a sort of a signature. When they think Dale Snodgrass, Snodgrass flying an airshow, they think of my low passes. So I very carefully and in a step down training procedure, got myself where I was very good and very comfortable at flying low. And it depended a lot on the environment I was in. I had to have the right conditions. There were some places that I just couldn't go as low as I normally would like. But if I had the perfect setup, the winds were right, everything was good, then I could get my left wingtip, which normally was a photo pass, a banana pass, where you're doing a curvilinear pass. So you're keeping the airplane at positive G in about anywhere from 60 to 80 degrees angle of bank. And that angle of bank, if you just move your wing up and down a little bit, can change your altitude instantaneously by 2, 3, 4, 5, 10 feet. So it's very easy to control. And then I had very good depth perception my whole life, really good. I'm blessed with really good eyes. And so I was able to judge that very carefully and execute essentially every time I wanted to do it, which was every air show.
Well, it's very impressive, but hope to see that happen again soon. I'm not sure if you're going to get back in the air show season or not, but if you do, looking forward to that. And for you folks that have never seen Dale Snort fly, I would encourage you to do so. There's a couple things I want to talk to you about before we wrap this up. You did some consulting for the movie Top Gun, correct? Because we have a new movie coming out. It's on the shelves now, just waiting for the right time because of this last COVID thing. But the original Top Gun, you had a little hand in this, correct?
Yes and no. I didn't directly consult on it at all when it went out. What they did do, there was some stock footage of me taken by Grumman. It was inside the cockpit of when the airplane landed on the carrier. And that happened to be me. It was not filmed directly for Top Gun. It was filmed for another Grumman movie they were making about the F-14. So I indirectly got in the movie, but I was not particularly involved with it. I did fly, was consulted, and was the main aviation consultant, and flew in the movie Executive Decision a few years later. But as far as Top Gun, that's the best I did. Only Top Gun, but on the other hand, when the movie came out, I was also the F-14 demonstration pilot. So it was a big deal, obviously, being the F-14 demo pilot right after the summer the movie Top Gun came out. It was a very good summer for Snort. It was a lot of fun, to say the least. Like being a in a microcosm, in a very small setting, you're like a rock star. They didn't recognize me when I went to the grocery store, but at an air show, it was like a big deal. It was really fun. And I'd been very fortunate that year of being awarded the Navy's Fighter Pilot of the Year award. So, and I'd been the Top Gun and all that. So I went on the the news TV show New York scene and did a couple interviews, as the real life captain.
Well, that's fantastic. All right. Last but not least, your call sign. Can you give us a clean version of how you came up with that call sign or how you got that?
I probably ought to just give you the call signs come from three different varieties, particularly in the Navy, three different arenas. One is you look like something, like you look like a weasel or have big buck teeth of a rabbit or something. Or you have a name that just sort of spawns a thing, like your name is Wheeler, so you become Wheels. But the most common thing is you do something and you are identified by that particular event, and that becomes your call sign. I had two other call signs prior to that. First one was slats, SLATS, which were their aerodynamic devices that were on the leading edge of wings. So in this case, there was an A4 I was flying just before I started F-14 training in Miramar, and I had one of the better words, I had an ocean avoidance maneuver that was rather strenuous, and I tore the slats off the airplane, as opposed to going in the water and crashing in the water and dying. So I lived, airplane made it back to the field, but the wing was pretty damaged and they had to put new slats on it. So that was one. Next one was called Snake, and that was something I won't go into very much either, but anyway, there was a woman involved. And then the follow on, the last one, Snort, it was in Palma de Mallorca, in the Mallorcan Islands. We were pulled in, and I guess I will just say there was an attractive young opera singer from New England, from England, involved, and sometimes her soprano voice didn't come out, so sort of had a snorting sound. So I'll leave it at that. Let the imagination run.
Oh, that's great. That's fantastic. Anyway, yeah, these stories. I'm sure when some of you people have met Snort, know the real story, all the details. Otherwise, unless you should meet him, maybe you might want to ask him or not. Again, you've told that story, I don't know, countless times, but never get tired of hearing how people.
There'll have to be a libation.
Yeah, of course, yeah. Anyway, hey, I'd like to thank you, and I'm very honored to have you on and accept our invitation to come on the WingNut and RockHead show. Anytime you want to chime in, by all means, the phone is always listening for you, and the door is always open. So we would be happy to have you anytime and discuss anything that you might have going on. If you're going to be in any air shows again, we'd be happy to announce where you're going to be so folks could see where you are, come out and meet and greet you and say hello, that kind of thing. Also, on a side note, please give my congratulations to your wife, Cynthia, on her happy birthday today. I believe it's her birthday. So I'm sure you guys will have a nice day and evening and celebrate her birthday. And congratulations too for finally tying the knot. I've seen you guys together for so long, and yeah, I know that she finally twisted your arm.
We're on our fourth year now, so we're surviving now. So, yeah, we're enjoying life. We have a lovely place here in Ponte Vedra Beach in Florida, and then the super exciting news in my life is we're building Fort Snort out in off the grid wilderness, Idaho.
Yeah, that's great.
So I sort of transitioned from, my flying career. I was a fighter pilot in the Navy, then became a full-time air show pilot. Then we're back being a fighter pilot with RockHead International, and now I'm pretty much retired completely. We're building this beautiful place on 150 acres, my own personal grass strip out there. So I'm now into backcountry farming. So
That's awesome. Well, again, thank you for coming on the show. Really appreciate that, and I hope to see you again out there soon. So, um, thanks, everybody. Dale, Snort, Snodgrass.
Thanks, Gary. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye now. So there you have it. Snort, the man, the legend. Anyway,
And the myth. Man,
no,
the myth,
he's
the
not a
legend.
myth. We just spelled a bunch. He's no myth. He was real. He was
There
there.
were myths.
Well, a couple of things were, but
The man, the myth, the legend.
yeah, I mean, well, the reason why I did that, there was a bunch of stuff posted on Facebook, and in defense of Dale, whenever it was brought to my attention, I just said, no, that was really Dale. That's not Photoshop. All of it is real. I witnessed this. So Dale is the man. I mean, the guy can fly. I mean, there's no question about it. He's very active now. And good for him. I mean, geez,
Amazing.
guy deserves it. Anyway, let's move on with the show. As we stated before, this is Memorial Day weekend. Much like everybody else, we have some plans. We have an event to go to. Amidst everything that we're working on, with the shop, and I promise you, I'm going to get to some of the stuff that we're working on in the shop. We're working on some really cool things. As I mentioned in the previous episodes, we have some interesting projects coming up, and since then, there's been some new developments also. But nonetheless, let's get to a question, I guess.
Question. Okay.
Since the topic was sort of Dale, and that was kind of lengthy,
Okay.
so let's move on.
Our question comes from, and we have more, but we don't really have time today, I guess. Comes from Robert Little. Robert wants to know. He says, "I never see a picture of primer going on bare aluminum. All of the nose art only temporary."
Well, at first in World War II, when the manufacturing process of the airplanes, there was primer, and then mostly, in the Navy and Marine aircraft like Corsairs, Hellcats, Wildcats that were going to be in the Pacific theater because they were subjected to salt air constantly, so they would corrode for the most part. But these machines were never really meant to be long lasting like they are today, so a lot of that stuff has to be redone. I mean, they were just war machines, and they had a lifespan of whatever. They weren't meant to be museum pieces in the end. So but I digress. There was primer in all the manufacturing of the aircraft, and then when we had air superiority, sometime in '43, I'm not sure exactly what month it was, but there was no need to paint airplanes anymore, at least the bombers, so they were left natural aluminum, the B-24s, B-25s, and B-17s for the most part. And then, they started stripping paint or camo paint off B-26s and whatever they could, if they chose so, just to lighten, the weight of the aircraft, which would make them a little bit faster. But when it comes to what I do, I basically do the same thing. I mean, I don't purposely prime some of the panels because when they chip, sometimes we purposely do that, to make them look weathered and older than they appear to be rather than brand spanking new. It has that sort of really cool look. The more you weather it, the more it looks like a relic piece to me. But I mean, I could only do so much because they still have to come, or at least leave here somewhat new.
Right.
Unless the customer wants it beat up, and we could shoot bullet holes out back and just beat it up a little bit.
We have video of you doing that.
Yeah, designer bullet holes, designer whatever. But sometimes I do prime because I have to apply templates and other, even vinyl templates sometimes. So I've learned that if I don't prime it properly, the paint will lift when I take the template off, and then I have to start all over again. That panel's ruined, and I just got to restart, and all that time vested in prepping and getting to that point has just been wasted. So yeah, some panels are primed, some are not. Aircraft, they were primed originally in a zinc chromate, either green or yellow. There were two zinc chromate type colors that were primer, and then they put the camouflage, typically OD green and neutral gray at the time, and then the Pacific scheme had the tricolor. Actually, they had different variants of that, but you know, the non-specular sea blue, intermediate blue, and then white underneath. But hopefully that'll answer, or it did answer your question.
I think it goes well beyond answering the
Well, I
question.
mean, it's just, well, it's detailed.
No, it's good. I
So-
mean, you never realize how much information you pick up over the years. It's
Yeah,
so much information.
and you know, someone's going to ask, well, what color is it? You know, what's the A&A color? And you know, again, different manufacturers had different paint batches manufactured by different paint companies, like Sherwin-Williams. I don't even know if DuPont was around back then, but Sherwin-Williams was one of the most known manufacturers of paint back then. But when they made up their batches of paint, went to different companies, and you know, they would mix up things when they ran out. So there was never, I mean, there was a guideline, obviously, paint chips from the manufacturer, from the paint manufacturer, but that changed in manufacture from plant to plant. And then overseas, you know, in the field, when they had to replace or repair parts, they painted again. And a lot of times it was just, that's close enough, and they would just shoot it, whatever. That's why a lot of planes you would see blotches, and because the paint didn't match up because of fading or just whatever. But that's how it is. I mean, that's how it was, and you know.
Very interesting.
All right, what's next?
Fun fact.
Okay.
Okay, my fun fact comes to you today based on Memorial Day. So Memorial Day became known as Memorial Day sometime in the 1880s. It was originally called Decoration Day. People would go out to the graves of fallen soldiers and decorate the graves. And they would try to memorialize them, you know, remember them and pay respects to them. And then eventually in the 1880s, it became known as Memorial Day. And it didn't become official until 1967. That's when it officially became Memorial Day. And I also have one other little fun fact, which isn't really Memorial Day related, but 1941, privates only earned $21 a month. In 1942, that more than doubled to $50 a month. Now, today, they earn $1,725 a month. So thank goodness for inflation, right?
That's still not enough, though, when you think about it.
No, it's not
you
enough.
know? I
It's
mean,
not enough. But you figure with the benefits, they're usually very
Yeah.
young. As a private, you're like 18 years old, 19 years old. Generally, you're not married, you know, so... I
Yeah,
mean,
it's still
yeah, it's
not
not
enough.
enough. And plus, you're getting your free health care.
Yeah.
So there's, you know, there's...
And of course, there's a different tier level.
Considering the work they do, putting their lives on the line every, you know, like every day in some cases,
Yeah, once they get
hundreds of times a day,
sent
maybe.
out.
Yeah, then no, it's absolutely not enough. But, you know, yeah.
Okay, well, that brings us to the shout out.
To the shout out.
So we want to thank all the vets that are serving now, including yourself. Thank you. But this Memorial Day, or this holiday, if you want to call it a holiday, it's more of a remembrance, is for the fallen. You know, the ones that are not here anymore, paid the ultimate price. To your families, thank you for enduring, and again, sacrificing as well too, because you know that's, you know, the ultimate sacrifice. It's not somebody not coming back again. You know, there's a hole. They're not. You know, it's just. You know, when you lose somebody, they're not coming back, so you just have the memories. But anyway, and for those that are looking to sign up, join up, or whatever, again, that's very noble, and we'd like to thank you for you know, for your effort in defending, you know, this country, so we could do what we do, you know, and that includes us in the show, and you know, have the only bastion of freedom left on this planet, where you can do whatever you want to do and become what you want to become without any sort of anything holding you back.
Land of the free because
Right.
of the brave.
And we want to keep it that way. Let's hope so. So fingers crossed. But anyway, thanks again. And on that note, we want to end the show with a thank you for you guys watching. We appreciate. We're noticing our viewership is starting to increase a little bit, and if you guys can help us put the word out, and what we're doing. We want to, provide you with really cool stuff and fun stuff, and, try to make this as lively as we could. And if you have any suggestions on what we should do, questions, please let us know. Send it in, and you could email us. Go on YouTube channel Nozart1, where these are launched, and then we share the links from there. But yeah, don't be shy. Just let us know what you think, good, bad, or indifferent. What we're doing wrong, or whatever. And no, please, no, like, get a haircut, because I've heard that all my life. And this is what
I
you
won't
get.
let him.
And that doesn't affect. I mean, if I do, I'm going to lose my powers.
Yes.
Like Samson. I won't be able to paint anymore. And maybe a couple of you guys out there will be like, yes. In any case, no, that is not happening. Actually, we just get a haircut.
Yeah.
I got, I guess about 3 inches. Of course, you're not going to know this.
Yeah.
But
we bring a ruler, though, and she's not allowed to cut any more than a certain
no,
amount.
well, that's not exactly
I do.
true. But she does tell her, hey, easy.
Yeah,
But
I sit right there. I'm like, be
none-
conservative.
Anyway, thanks again for watching another episode of WingNut and RockHead, and we'll see you next week if we could. I know there's a lot of stuff going on, but stay tuned, and please share as you can.
Enjoy the weekend and be safe.
Absolutely.